Now, from the Bay Area's local news station, you're watching KRON 4 News.
Next at 5:30, measles is back in the Bay Area. Dr. Evans from Marin General Hospital joining us live in studio coming up to talk about the outbreak throughout the country and what's happening here in the Bay Area.
Well, you may remember a little earlier this week we reported the measles outbreak. It reached us here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, doctors say there have been 3 cases now in San Francisco, and that small outbreak marks the first cases since 2013. Joining us now to talk about that and the vaccination rate is Dr. Alexander Evans from Marin General Hospital. Dr. Evans, thanks for your time here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
We know what's been going on in Washington State. That's sort of where this all started. How does something like this happen in the U.S. in 2019?
It's real unfortunate that it's happening in the first place. Vaccine rates have been dropping in some parts of the country. It's overall very high throughout the country. In certain parts of the country, however, there are small subsets that are low. And this occurs in families that may refuse their routine vaccinations. This one is the MMR. It contains three different vaccines within one shot. The particular one we're talking about is the measles. That is spreading throughout the world. There are multiple countries where it's spreading, where vaccine rates are even lower than the U.S. A lot of travel back and forth. We get some cases here.
Okay, but if everyone were vaccinated here, then it wouldn't be an issue. But because some people choose not to vaccinate on the basis of what we're really realizing is false information, as far as we can tell. There was a recent study of some 600,000 people that showed that there was not the correlation between the MMR and autism.
Yes.
Right? I guess there was some fear about that.
Yeah.
How do you address that as a medical professional?
It's difficult because anti-vaccination's been around since the first vaccine came out for smallpox in the 18th century. So a disbelief in medical care has been around from the beginning. When you have things published by this paper with Andrew Wakefield in 1998, it added fuel to that fire. Luckily, that paper was retracted. A lot of other studies haven't proven that. In fact, have disproven any link between autism and the measles vaccine. But it still remains in people's heads, and there's still kids out there. And if you don't have a vaccine coverage rate of about 95%, that's when you start to see some cases, because it's circulating through people through the world. They come travel here. The 3 cases that were reported in the Bay Area were due to travel. People traveling, getting exposed, and there you go.
You work at Marin General. West Marin is kind of known for having some folks who are enthusiastic about getting shots than other places around the Bay Area. What do you see in terms of people coming in, and do you have to sometimes convince parents? Is it a conversation? How does that work?
It's a conversation that needs to be had. It's a difficult conversation for some rather than others. Most of all, our vaccine rate in Marin County is excellent. You can look it up online. You can look at the preschool and the kindergarten rates for MMR. Most of the schools, including my son's school, very high, 99%. There are some schools out there where you find low rates, and that's where the issue is. You can introduce measles there, it'll spread like wildfire. The problem is if you have like an immunocompromised, a person who's got a low immune system who couldn't get the shots, and they get exposed, measles is a very, very rough illness. And people get really sick with this, and they can die from it. It has a hospitalization rate. For instance, that Clark County outbreak, about 25% of the kids that were sick with this were hospitalized. 25%, that's a huge number. That blows flu
Real quick,
up.
though, what about SB 277? That's the law in 2015 that mandates vaccinations before you go to school. Are people just getting around that somehow?
No, it worked. It worked. We saw vaccine rates go up. So we know that law worked. The problem is the law is not written as well as it probably could be, and they're trying to fix that. And so what happened is that you have to get a doctor's permission. However, there are doctors out there that are willing to write that off because they may believe the same misguided thought process. So what do we do about that? Well, there are other states out there that we're looking to. West Virginia has a good law where doctors actually have to get approval from the county health department in order to give that recommendation. Our doctors here don't need any approval. They can just write it and just go with it, and people pay big money for that.
Okay, this is a big topic, and we'd love to just continue on. We've got to take a very quick break. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Dr. Evans.
Yeah, excellent.